Ches Vav. Yeah. So the measure that determines liability for carrying out a bone is equivalent to that which is used to make a spoon. Rabbi Yehuda says equivalent to make a key. I guess you were saying the tooth of a key.
Yeah.
The measure for carrying out glass is equivalent to that which is used to scrape and smooth the top of a bobbin, which is a sharpened stick used by weavers. The measure that determines liability for carrying out a pebble or a stone is equivalent to that which is used to throw at a bird. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says equivalent to that which is used to throw at an animal, which is larger. One next, Zion. One who carries out a shard of earthenware on Shabbos is liable if its measure is equivalent to that which is used to place between one pillar and another to separate, used as a separation tool. This is the statement of Rabbi Yehuda. I think Eliezer is joining us now.
Yeah.
Welcome. Okay, so we're at Shabbos Ches Zion.
Thank you.
So again, the shard of an earthenware, you're liable for carrying if it's large enough to place between pillars to separate them. And that's what Rabbi Yehuda says. Rabbi Meir says it's the measure equivalent to that which is used to stoke a fire. Rabbi Yossi says a measure equivalent to that which is used to hold a quarter log in it. Rabbi Meir says, although there's no proof of the matter, there is an illusion. And it's from Yeshayahu. My translation has a little bit more of the verse. So it says, and he shall break it as a potter's vessel is broken, smashing it without sparing, and there shall be not found among its pieces a shard to rake a fire on the hearth. Rabbi Yossi says to him, is there, you get your proof from here? Is there proof from here? The verse concludes, and to extract water from the cistern, indicating that earthenware is significant if it's large enough to hold water. And the last one. Do you want me to take it or do you want to jump in?
Fine. We're Tes Aleph.
Yep.
Yeah.
I said Rabbi Akiva. From where do we learn that an object of idolatry transmits tumor contamination by carrying, like a menstruate? For it is stated, cast them away like a menstruate. Go out, shall you say to it. Just as a menstruate transmits tumor contamination by carrying, so does an object of idolatry transmit tumor contamination by carrying.
Okay, so in this parak we're doing a lot of droshes from Psukim. That's as I said yesterday, we kind of went on a tangent since the last Mishna of the previous parak was talking about droshes about things that about what shards are used for. So now we're taking a whole bunch of other droshes over here. So what's the source of the fact that a ship itself cannot become tameh? And you think about it, I mean, we've done Maseches Kalim now, so we've got a bit of an understanding that Lechora, if you look at a ship is of the right shape. It's a receptacle. It's big. It's not attached to the ground, right? If something's attached to the ground, like a house, that's not susceptible to tumah. Okay, but if you have something like a ship, is basically just it's a big bowl. It's just a big bowl that you put things in and people. So it should also be susceptible to tumah, but we have a halacha that the ship is not susceptible to tumah. How do we know this? Is the Mishnah? The way of a ship is in the heart of the sea. Okay, so what's the drush over there? Is just like the sea is tahor, it can never become tameh. So the ship is also insusceptible to tumah. This is a din in kilayim. If you recall, we learned not so long ago the din of a kilayim. If you've got the 6x6 matrix, if you've got a kahati in front of you, he's actually redrawn the diagram. But if you recall, in kati we had 4 on the edges and 1 diamond in the middle, so that you can fit 5 different species into one little 6x6 tvachim square. And that's legit. So how do you fit them in? And there's a hint to it from the pasuk. So the pasuk has four expressions of growth, right? Totzi tzimcha zeroeha tatzmiach. Okay, so that's just four, but zeroeha is written in the plural. Zar'ah lo ne'emar ela zeroeha. So it's written in plural, so that the plural must be two. So therefore, you've got an allusion to five different things inside this pasuk. Okay, Mishna Gimel minayin lepoletes shichvas zera b'yom hashlishi shehi tmeah. So how do we know that if a woman had relations with her husband, and she's still dripping semen from up to 3 days, up to the third day, that also renders her balkeri? Gives a keri tuma. Okay, shenemar hayu nechonim lishloshes yamim. Basically, separate yourselves from women for 3 days, because not only the men have to be tahor for Matan Torah, also the women. So they have to be tahor for they have to separate themselves for 3 days, so that after that it would then they could pretty much guarantee that everyone would be tahor. And how do you know that you have permission to override Shabbos in order to attend to the wound of the milah, if the third day from the milah falls on Shabbos? So talking about the Maaseh of Shimon and Levi when they sacked Shechem. It was on the third day after the bris milah, when everyone was in the most amount of pain, and they were most debilitated from it, and that was the moment when they struck. So that
is there any proof anywhere that they planned this out and said, oh, on the third day these guys are going to not be able to move, so if we pick this day and the third day we attack, then we have a better chance?
It seems that at least Shimon and Levi had that idea.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, taking a little segue, just a little not a segue, but more of a tangent, into discussing that parsha. My understanding of the parsha is that it was a bluff. They were fully intending to say, listen, either you're all going to circumcise yourselves, or we want our daughter back and go. And I think, yeah, right, they're all going to circumcise themselves. That was not if you'd looked at it from the outset, you would have said that's an outrageous demand. How are you going to get the entire city to circumcise themselves? Right. And the next thing, they went out and did it. And I think the Bnei Yisrael were like looking at each other and thinking, okay, well, now what? Right. And Shimon and Levi said, now what? We'll show you now what.
Okay.
Which is why Yaakov was silent when they gave that advice, because he thought, okay, so they're bluffing, good idea. And then when they actually went and did it, and Shimon and Levi went and slaughtered the entire town, he was furious with them.
I mean, if you were a general and planning the battle, kind of thing, this would be like a perfect, like this is the way to do it. Okay. So where do we see it? It's nowhere written in the pasuk that you have to tie a red thread to the head of the Sira Mishtalech, the scapegoat. Because of the pasuk that we have in Yeshayahu, which has an inference about the redness that's going to become white, and that is supposedly what happened in the Beis Hamikdash, is that after the Sira Mishtalech was pushed off the cliff, back in the Beis Hamikdash, the other half of the thread would miraculously turn white. Mishna Dalet. How do we know that anointing with oil is tantamount to drinking on Yom Kippur, such that if you have to, you would be violating Yom Kippur by anointing yourself with oil. So there's a pasuk in Tehillim which has the analogy between
just like water goes into his body, the shemen also goes into his limbs, into his bones, literally. But so it's not really a proof that shemen, that anointing with oil is tantamount to drinking, but there's a hint to it from that pasuk. Okay. So back to Hey Gimel.
And with what may we not go out? A camel may not go out with a patch on its tail, nor with its forelegs and hind legs chained together, nor with its foreleg bent back to the shoulder, and so it is with all other animals. One may not tie camels to one another and lead them, but he may gather ropes into his hands and lead them, provided he does not wind the ropes around the other.
Okay.
That's what I'm doing.
The Mishnah was okay. A donkey may neither go out with the saddlecloth when it is not tied to its back, nor with the bell, even if it's plugged, to prevent it from ringing, nor with a ladder that is around its neck, like the cone on cats, nor with a strap that's around its leg. And the roosters may not go out with strings that do not strap on their feet. With strings and not with a strap on their feet, which are tied there as a sign of ownership. And the rams may not go out with a small wagon under their tails. Note, it was common to put a small wagon under the tails of grown sheep so that the tail would not be injured by dragging it on the ground. I looked up sheep's tails. They're creepy. I've never seen one before. They're very big and large, and I didn't even know that was a thing. So it makes sense that you would actually need a little thing to protect it if you wanted to keep it from getting.
I mean, that's one of the things that makes the sheep sacrifices unique when it comes from a ram, is that the tail gets a special place of honor on the mizbeach too.
Yeah, Leia, looking at these things, I get it. I've always pictured just this little kind of puffball, like
they cut them off.
Yeah. Okay, and ewes may not go out. Hanunot. Mine doesn't translate that.
It's henna chips.
Okay. Nor may a calf go out with a gimon. Don't know what that is either.
The henna chips are come from a tree known as chanun, or yachanun. The chips from the tree.
Okay. And a calf can't go out with a gimon. Do you have a translation for that?
A little yoke.
Okay. Oh, the training yoke, right. Nor may a cow go out with the skin of a hedgehog, nor with a strap between its horns. Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah's cow would go out with a strap between its horns, contrary to the will of the sages. Which is
Vav Aleph. With what may a woman go out, and with what may she not go out? A woman may not go out neither with woolen threads, nor with linen threads, nor with straps that are on her head, nor may she immerse herself in a mikveh with them unless she first loosens them. Nor may she go out with a frontlet, nor with the head bangles when they are not sewn, nor with a forehead pad into a public domain, nor with a golden city, nor with a necklace, nor with a nose rings, nor with a ring that bears no signet, nor with a needle without an eye. And if she went out, she is not liable for a sin offering.
Orla, base dalet.
Let's see. Whatever causes to ferment or seasons or renders meduma with truma, with oil, or with kalil chacharim is forbidden. Beit Shammai says it also renders unclean, but Beit Hillel says it never renders unclean unless it contains kibetza.
Doste of Kfar Yitma was one of the disciples of Beit Shammai, and he said, I received a tradition from Shammai the elder, who said, it never renders unclean unless it contains the volume of an egg. So don't say there's machlokas here. He agrees. We agree with Beis Hillel.
Now, concerning what they did say, that whatever causes to ferment or flavors or which renders meduma, the ruling is stringent. In the case of like kinds, stringently and leniently, if they are of different kinds, how so? If leaven of wheat fell into dough of wheat, and it suffices to leaven it, then whether it is outweighed by 100 to 1 or it is not outweighed by 100 to 1, it is forbidden. If it is not outweighed by 100 to 1, then whatever it suffices to cause fermentation, or it does not suffice to cause fermentation, is forbidden.
Shavias, ches.
Yes.
One may not buy slaves, land, or impure animals with the seventh year proceeds. And if he did, he must eat for its equivalent. What, excuse me, one may not bring burnt offerings of men or women who suffered a flux, or burnt offerings of women after childbirth, bought with seventh year proceeds. And if one did, one must eat for its equivalent. One may not anoint vessels with the seventh year oil, and if he did, he must eat for its equivalent.
In other words, if you have Shemitah produce, it has to be consumed. It can't even be consumed by the Mizbeach. It's got to be human consumption. And if you did mess up and use Shemitah produce for non-edible stuff, then you have to take chulin money and turn it into Shemitah money.
Okay. A hide which they oiled with seventh year oil, Rabbi Eliezer says it must be burnt, but the sages say he must buy and eat food for its equivalent. They said in front of Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Eliezer used to say, a hide which they smeared with seventh year oil must be burnt. He replied, silence. I won't tell you what Rabbi Eliezer actually said in this connection. Wow.
Right, that's
like, no, but I'm not going to.
It's an interesting thing over here because according to some of the Mepharshim, it's the Amoraim have a machlokes saying that he was actually more machmir, and another opinion says that he was actually more makir. And either way, Rabbi Akiva, for some reason, didn't want to disclose what Rabbi Eliezer said, which is very, very weird because normally you just say, okay, that was his opinion. We don't hold by his opinion, but that was his opinion. So it's almost inexplicable why Rabbi Akiva would not reveal to them what he said. Does anyone else have anything?
Yeah, it says here that the other considers Reb Eliezer to be more lenient than the sages, and he allows them smearing of vessels with seventh year oil. Most commentators accept the latter view, whereby Rabbi Akiva refused to disclose Rabbi Eliezer's view because of its leniency.
Mm-hmm. But why? But like getting that back down to the question of why would Rabbi Akiva refuse to disclose the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer?
Right. So just say he held a lenient opinion. We don't hold by him, but this is what he said.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, and the same thing is going to happen in the next Mishnah.
It says, Yoshami Gemara, it says that this whole thing is discussed.
So it comes out in the Yerushalmi.
Right. Okay. All right. Let me see. Okay. All right. They also said before, Reb Eliezer used to say, he who eats bread of the Cusins is like one who eats pork. He said to them, be silent. I will not tell you what Eliezer says about this. Again, the same thing.
I think it's on the basically talking about tithes, because if you're eating or challah, if you're not so basically it's like you're over on an Issa Torah for eating this because it's vadai that they don't take the tithes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Taharos?
Para. No, not parash. Taharos.
Right. Base chet.
Yep.
Someone who eats a sheni food should not work in the oil press. And chulin foods that were made to the standard of sacrificial foods, these are like chulin. Rav Eliezer Bar Tzaddik says they are like truma to convey truma in two and disqualify one.
Gimel Aleph. Sauce, bean mash, and milk, when in condition of fluidity, are unclean in the first degree. So it's
because it's a liquid.
Yeah. If they turn solid, they become unclean in second. If they again melted, if their bulk was exactly that of an egg, a beitza, they're clean. But if it was more than an egg, then they remain unclean. For as soon as the first drop issued forth, it became unclean by contact with an egg's bulk.
Right. So you have the mechanism over here is that liquids can be matame in any amount, but solids need to be a kabeitza. And furthermore, solids can only solids have normal rules of tumah, but Chazal paskined on liquids that they go back to the Rishon.
Mhm.
So if you have something if you have a solid that's exactly a kabeta, then as soon as some part of it melts and becomes a liquid, then it's now less than a kabeta.
Mm.
So
So that's pure,
then
and the drop is pure.
so the liquid will not become tummy because it's less than a kabeta touching it. Okay. By the way, I think this when we saw this, my comment will come in the coming Mishnah. Okay, go ahead.
Remember, Remeah says oil is always beginning level of tuma. Chachamim say even honey. Reb Shimon Sisori says even wine. Regarding a mass of olives which fell into an oven and the oven was kindled, if the mass consists of exactly a beitza's volume of olives, the oven is tahor. If the mass consists of more than a beitza of olives, the oven is tameh. For as soon as the first drop of oil emerges, it is rendered tameh by a beitza. If the olives were separate, even if they consist of a saw, the olive is tahor.
Because each olive is less than a kabetza. So if they're one big mass, then if they've been pushed together into one mass, then yeah, you got a kabetza mushed together. But if each one is a separate olive, then they don't combine to make the bulk of a kabetza. All right. This, incidentally, my comment was that I made a hara that if you have 100% pure orange juice or lemon juice, it can never be tameh. As long as the fruit never came into contact with water, because if the fruit was never became tameh, then as soon as long as it never came into contact with water, because as soon as you squeeze the juice, it's the juice itself. It's not one of your 7 liquids that transmit tumah. So even if a tameh person touches it, fruit juice does not fruit juice can't transmit tumah. It doesn't join for tumah. It's not susceptible to tumah. Because it never became susceptible from touching water. So it will never. Even if you put it right next to a corpse in a building, whatever, the orange juice remains tahor.
That's pretty impossible, though, not to touch any water. I mean, it rains, they water, they.
Okay. So you picked an orange off the tree, you squeezed it, and you've got orange juice in a glass. That remains tahor. Okay.
Cool.
Menachos. We're in Gimel Aleph.
If one performs kmitza on a mincha offering, intending to eat something which is not meant to be eaten, or to burn upon the altar something which is not meant to be burned, it is valid. Rav Eliezer says it is the intent. Well, all right. I'm sorry. I have to stop there a second.
For the cat.
Yeah, the cat, the 3 cats. All right, now listen, you guys. Okay. Look at this.
Bye.
That's a cyclops.
One-eyed cat.
One-eyed cat. The cyclops. Okay.
Sorry, while he's doing that, where were we?
If his intent.
Menachos, sorry.
Gimel Aleph.
Oh, perfect.
If his intent was to eat something which is meant to be eaten, or to burn upon the altar something which is meant to be burnt, but less than a kibetza, it is valid. If his intent was to eat something half of a kibetza,
kazayas, we've got
kazayas, volume, and was to eat something half of a olive's volume, and that the burn half of an olive's volume, it is valid. For eating and altar burning are not combined.
Okay, Gimel base. If one did not pour oil onto the meal offering, or did not mix the oil into the meal offering, or did not break the loaves into pieces, or did not add salt, or did not wave the Omer meal offering, or the meal offering of a sota, or did not bring the meal offering to the altar, or if it happened that the priest broke the meal offering that requires breaking into greater pieces than is appropriate, or did not smear oil on the wafers, requiring that smearing. In all these cases, the meal offering is fit. If a handful of one meal offering, which is to be burned on the altar, was intermingled with a handful of another meal offering, or with the meal offering of priests, or with the meal offering of the anointed priest, the high priest, or with the meal offering of libations accompanying burnt offerings and peace offerings, all of which are burned in their entirety on the altar, it is fit for sacrifice, and the mixture is burned on the altar. Rabbi Yehuda says, if the handful was intermingled with the meal offering of the anointed priest, or with the meal offering of libations, the mixture is unfit, because with regard to this, the handful from the standard meal offering, its mixture is thick, 1 log of oil mixed with 1/10 of an ephah of flour. And with regard to that, the other ones, the meal offering of the anointed priest and the meal offering of libations, its mixture is loose, 3 log of oil mixed with 1/10 of an ephah of flour. And the mixtures which are not identical absorb from each other, which increases the amount of oil.
It changes the consistency of each mincha offering, which, according to Rabbi Yehuda, renders them pasul.
Exactly.
If 2 mincha offerings in which Kmitza had not been performed and mixed together, if it is possible to perform Kmitza in each by itself, they are valid. If not, they're invalid. If a korban mixed with a mincha offering in which Kmitza had not been performed, it is not burnt on the altar. But if it burnt it, the one in which Kmitza has been performed is credited to the owner, and the one in which Kmitza has not been performed is not credited to the owner. If its chametz mixed with its remainder or with the remainder of another mincha offering, it should not burn it on the altar, but if he did burn it, it is credited to the owner. If the chametz becomes tamei and he offered it, the sitz accepts acceptance. If it went out and he offered it, the sitz does not accept acceptance, for the sitz affects acceptance for that which is tamei, but not for that which went out. Nadarim. Vav Zion.
No, vav.
Vav. One who makes a neder prohibiting meat is permitted meat juice and jellied meat juice. Rabbi Yehuda, however, forbids them. Said Rabbi Yehuda, it happened that Reb Tarfon forbade me the eggs which were cooked with it. They said to him, it is true. When? At a time that he says this meat to me. Because one who prohibits a thing with a neder and it mixes with another thing, if there is enough to give a flavor, it is forbidden.
Careful with
So
your
you have the difference between, like, if a person takes a neder from a particular item, then that particular item is also like it's completely treif. And if there's any amount of taste that it imparts to something else, it's completely asa to him. Whereas if somebody just asses himself to a category, then if something from that category got mixed in with something else so that you would no longer say it's from that category, then it doesn't fall under the getter of the neder.
Mhm.
Okay, because when he asks himself the category, then he's not asking himself the taste. He's asking himself anything that's called X, and once it's been mixed in with something else, it's no longer called X.
Right. So similarly, one who vows that wine is forbidden to him is permitted to eat a cooked dish that has the flavor of wine. However, if he said, wine is konam for me, and for that reason I will not taste it, and the wine fell into a cooked dish, if the dish contains an amount of wine that gives it flavor, it's forbidden. One who vows that grapes are forbidden to him is permitted to partake of wine. One who vows that olives are forbidden to him is permitted to partake of oil. However, if one said olives and grapes are konam for me, and for that reason I will not taste them, then he's prohibited from tasting them and the wine and the oil that emerge from them.
Okay, ches.
Yep.
Hey, did I miss one?
No, you're doing ches now.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Or unless you already put it away, in which case Ryan will take it.
No, I have it. Okay, I'm sorry, I don't know why I did that. Yes. One who makes a neder prohibiting dates is permitted date honey. If he makes a neder prohibiting winter grapes, he's permitted vinegar of winter grapes. Rabbi Yehuda ben Basara says, whatever the derivative carries the name of its source and he makes a neder prohibiting the source, it's forbidden, the derivative as well. The Chachamim, however, permit it.
Okay. Adkan.
Okay.
All right, gents. Have a lovely day.
Instead of sending you a note all the week, obviously I'm at the Hubble's house all week, so I'll get here as fast as I can. So,
Sure. No
okay.
problem.
Okay. Today was not bad. Yesterday, tomorrow should be okay, but Thursday might be a little bit because of laning. So.
Okay.
All right.
No problem.
Everybody, enjoy. Thank you.
See ya.
Thank you.
Cheers.